What's up nerds, Heartless here. In this video I'll be revisiting my AQ40 guide in its entirety with updated strategies for the different bosses and trash. You see, in the past couple of weeks as my guild progressed through AQ40, I've come across numerous new strategies that I would like to share with the community. Strategies that can really trivialize parts of the raid. So without further ado, let's begin. First up, we have the Eradicator. No changes here, mana drain and nuke it down. Up next are the Anubisath Sentinels. For these you will want the whole raid to stack up on the melees and have the Sentinels tanked on top of the raid. Be quick to identify the Thunderclap if you have it and move that mob out of the raid. Keep in mind that if you have both Thunderclap and Shadowstorm, that the Thunderclap tank is still within Shadowstorm's dead zone, whilst keeping the TC Sentinel out of range of your raid. Doing this will pretty much trivialize all the abilities. I will add a caveat here that depending on your raid's composition, you might want to use a list different to what I posted in my previous video on which mobs affix to kill first. For example, if your raid is heavy on melee DPS, you will want to kill the third mob as late as possible, probably the last unless you have Thunderclap as well. Next up, we have two more Eradicators and a pack of Sentinels. Treat them as you did before. Skeram is pretty true to the guide. The only caveat I'll add here is that if your raid has a lot of high parsers, you might want to chill with the DPS when he summons his clones at 75, 50 and 25% to avoid transitioning him before killing all the mirrors. After Skeram, we have the Brainwasher's pack. Kill the Brainwasher first and the Guardians next. Next pack is the 3 Warriors. Again, depending on your guild's capabilities and composition, you either kill them one by one, dealing with the adds as they spawn between kills, or kill them at the same time and go ham with the AoE on the adds. Challenging Shout with Shield Wall or Lip can help you a lot if you choose the latter option. The next Brainwasher packs are pretty easy. Just kill the Brainwasher first, Guardians next, and make sure people don't fly into another pack and ninja pull. Bug Trio should be handled just like it was stated in my original guide. Spread them, have an extra tank near the healer's range camp to help taunt the bosses when they run loose, and otherwise kill them in the order depending on the loot you want. I will say this though, I've tanked Kree before and sometimes Kree hits really hard, so putting a shield on, especially when he's about to die, is recommended. After Bug Trio, you'll face the pre-Sartura trash packs. Those will consist of 3 6 Guardian packs and 1 Warrior Patrol. Pull the Warrior Patrol first, a hunter can easily do it as long as they hug the right side, and handle them like you did with the previous Warrior pack. Next are the Guardian packs. Those are really easy with the strategy I'm going to show you. Initially I claimed that they will charge random players, but that is not the case. Instead, the Guardians will charge a dying Guardian and knock everyone around him, implying a dot and causing fall damage. Therefore, I recommend having 2 tanks tanking them all around a corner, while a third tank will taunt one and move it away from the rest, line of sighting them. Doing so will completely disable their charge, making it extremely easy to kill. Sartura is our next target, and she can definitely be killed as the guide claimed. Kill the adds one by one while spreading out and rotate taunts on Sartura when she will wins. However, there is an alternative strategy which involves AoEing the Royal Guard down while locking them in place. I play Alliance, and what we do is on pull, while the Royal Guard is fairly stacked, we Hammer of Justice each one of them and we follow it up with Kidney Shot. This gives you 12 seconds of stunned adds. When Kidney Shot expires, one of our tanks uses Challenging Shout. This won't stop the whirlwind, but it will keep them stacked for an additional 6 seconds. By the end of the Challenging Shout, all the adds are normally dead. But if the DPS is on the low side, you can use the other tanks to continue with the Challenging Shout rotation until all the adds are dead. Amplify Magic is king here, and Stone Shield Potion will help keep your melees alive. Proceed to kill Sartura. Gauntlet Tunnel is without changes. Go through it as fast as you can depending on your guild's capabilities. Fankriss is our next boss, and he turned out to be just a glorified trash mob. Pop all your cooldowns and nuke him down while off-tanking the adds. Depending on your guild's capabilities, you can one-tank him without an issue and even before the first big worm spawns. Next are the Scorpion packs. Those are easy. However, keep in mind that on pull they will both shoot at the puller. so be sure to let the tank body pull them so he gets the initial damage. Normally if a DPSer pulls them, they will just straight out die. Don't forget to cleanse the poison. The pre-Huhuran trash is exactly as in the original guide. Kill stingers first, melee will finish the wasps after, while ranged will focus on the lasher. Be wary of the knockbacks from the lasher, as a bad knock can throw a player all the way to another pack, which will either kill them or cause them to ninja pull an extra pack or two. So make sure to tank them with your back to the wall and away from the raid. Next we'll be facing Huhuran, and she is true to the guide as well. Save all your cooldowns to 30%, pop them a global before and burn her down. GNPP during the berserk will save lives. It's also advisable to wait at 35% for Weaver Instinct to fade and then transition her. And now comes the hard part. Before I explain those, I'd like to apologize to the community for claiming these had only 2 abilities out of 8. Instead, they have 4 out of 8. The pairings are the same. However, I will add that the reflect affix is so extremely easy to avoid that it doesn't really count, and that the 10% one is also pretty easy. So your raid should really be focusing on the remaining 2 abilities that you get, which are Shadowstorm or Thunderclap and Meteor or Plague. Anubisath Defenders, at least for my guild, proved to be the hardest trash in the raid, simply because the sheer amount of damage they output, especially if you get unlucky with Thunderclap and Meteor combo, can be very overwhelming. In my original guide, I suggested stacking on pull and split if you get Thunderclap. This can work, however, in the case of my guild, the opposite worked better. Starting with 2 camps and then collapsing on melee if you get Shadowstorm turned out to be a better choice for us. For those packs, I'd also recommend using GFPP, as it will completely mitigate the damage from Meteor, allowing your healers to focus on the tank and on the melees in the case of Thunderclap. Hunters should dismiss their pets. Warlocks can pull using Eye of Kilrog. Use the time the Anubisath is running to your raid to identify its abilities by watching its hands. Next are twins. This boss was the hardest for us, mostly because it took us some time to figure out how to handle the random melee on the Warlock. And truth is, we still don't know for sure what triggers it. So I will share with you what worked for us to reduce the chances for Vekniss to go melee the Warlock. But again, keep in mind, this is all unproven. First, have the Warlock stand at max distance. Second, have your melee tanks stand about 10 yards away from the twin, just barely out of Arcane Burst's trigger range. Third, make sure no one is near your Warlock tank at all times. And fourth, make sure to drop Ignite and any other damaging over time effects 5 seconds before the teleport happens. Again, this is not proven in any way, but those are steps we've taken and we haven't had Vekniss meleeing our Warlock since. Other than the above, make sure to move out of Blizzard, move away from exploding bugs, off-tank the enlarged bugs, and never AoE, so you don't aggro the neutral bugs. After twins, we have the pre-Cthulhu trash packs. Those consist of 1 champion and a random number of slayers and mind slayers. I suggest using all your warriors here to tank. They don't really need tanking gear, but replacing leather and mail with plate and stamina will help a lot. For the champions, you will need 2 tanks, 1 active tanks and another that will wait away from it to taunt after knockback and fear, tank him away from the raid and kill him last. The tank needs to make sure that he has his back to a wall, dispel the champion when he grows big. For the slayers, you will need 2 tanks, which will want to rotate taunts when the slayers use Whirlwind. You will also want to assign a hunter on each slayer to tranquilize them when they go frenzy. If you fail to do so, your tanks won't be able to taunt the slayers during Whirlwind, since they cast AoE silence while frenzied. This will quickly cause havoc in the raid and will probably kill a few players. Tank the slayers away from the raid, preferably at the bottom of the stairs in the twins room. For the mind slayers, you will want only 1 tank. They don't really hit hard. Most of their damage comes from Mind Flay. You will also want to tank them away from the raid since they do AoE Mind Blast. It's not unlikely for tanks to get mind controlled here, so just CC them. We found Fear to be the best choice since it doesn't break on damage as opposed to Poly. When the Mind Slayers die, they will cast an AoE Fear, which players can line of sight. With that in mind, you will want to tank the Mind Slayers near a corner so that your melee can use the line of sight right before they die. In short, you want to spread out all the mobs and kill them one by one. Mind Slayers first, Slayers second, and the champion last. Alternatively, kill order that works for some guild is to kill the slayers first as opposed to the mind slayers. I suggest doing so when you're either low on hunters or when there's only one mind slayer in the pack. The last pack of mobs is the Anubisath Warders. They are super easy, kill one nullifier at a time while mana draining them both. If you have high DPS, you can just not mana burn your first target and only focus draining the second nullifier. The Warder is really easy, though can be a bit annoying. You can technically line of sight his abilities, but we've found it to be a hassle. Just make sure to dispel your melees when they get blinded and to always have the tanks topped off in case of AoE silence. So now we're done with the trash and are left with the 3 last bosses in AQ40. Cthulhu, Ouro, and Viscidus. Cthulhu should be your next boss because sadly, he's just easier than Ouro and Viscidus. For Cthulhu, I suggest creating a spreadsheet where it's clearly visible who goes where in phase 1. Make sure to mark players you trust so that the others can follow them. Stay spread. Let ranged kill the claws and eye tentacles while Cthulhu is spamming eye beams. During Dark Lair, everyone should help killing the eyes. We found phase 1 to be the harder phase of the two. Therefore, you should pop all your 3 and 5 minutes cooldowns in phase 1 to transition Cthulhu to phase 2 ASAP. In phase 2, simply have all your raid loosely spread where the gongs are. Tanks should rotate taunts on the big tentacles if there's a threat issue, which is likely considering they hit pretty hard, so equipping a shield will be common. By far the most threatening bit in phase 2 are the small eye tentacles. What I did with my guild that worked quite nicely, since the eyes spawn in fixed locations, is to assign 1 DPS per small eye to stun, interrupt, and kill them. Mages and warriors are great for that. Other than that, just make sure to interrupt the big eye tentacle from casting eye beam. You can see when it casts it by the color of the eye. It glows green when it's about to cast. Rogues, tanks, and mages, if you have some to spare, are perfect for this. Make sure you kill the second stomach tentacle before the next wave of ads spawn and nuke Cthulhu down. Repeat until Cthulhu is dead. Next up, we have Ouro, and we found a pretty idiot-proof way to kill him. Simply have a warlock with PvP gear on, or at least 4.5k hit points, spam Searing Pain away from the raid, pretty much behind where your tank would normally be. 4 seconds before Sandblast is cast, have the warlock run away from Ouro. That will get Ouro to cast Sandblast at the direction of the warlock, but not hit him. Meaning, the warlock will retain his threat, making all future Sandblasts aim at him, trivializing the fight. If done correctly, you'll only need 2 melee tanks for this. One to actually tank Ouro and another waiting in berserk stance away from Ouro to intercept after sweep to tank temporarily while the main tank runs into position. Save all your cooldowns for 20% and nuke Ouro down. I will add this though, if your warlock runs too early, Sandblast will be cast on second on threat. If he runs too late, he will eat the Sandblast, so this will require a bit of practice from your warlock. Next is Viscidus, and he's by far, I would say, the closest boss we have to a pay to win. It will require a lot of preparation and gold spent on consumables to down. Of course, you can always choose the hard way and take your time killing him, but why make it harder on the guild and specifically your healers? Anyway, all your DPSers should have as much NR equipped as possible. Make sure your melees have weapons with frost damage procs equipped, enchanted with icy chill and coated with frost oil. That will maximize the frost procs, helping you freeze Viscidus that much faster. Alternatively, if you have a lot of mages warlocks, you can simply have the melees wait at the back and let the casters handle the freezing of Viscidus. You will need to call the melees right before shatter phase begins to ensure they have 100% uptime on the boss during that. During the freeze and shatter phases, the hardest mechanic to deal with is going to be the poison bolt volley. If you're horde with enough shamans, this won't be an issue. However, if you're alliance or horde without enough shamans, you will need a lot of dispels, and because there's a lot to heal and to dispel, you'll find out that your healers will go really quickly. The best way to counter this that I found is with the usage of an item called Immature Venom Sac. This item is easily farmed in LBRS, and a group of 5 players can farm enough sacks for the whole raid in just about 2 hours, especially if you have the quest called NASTY or Nasty. This quest will make the eggs lootable and oftentimes spawn a group of spiders that can also drop the venom sac. This quest allows your group to just stay in LBRS indefinitely and farm the venom sacks. The more people with the quest, the better. Immature Venom Sac is by far the easiest and cheapest way to handle the poison from Viscidus. Simply store them on an alt and trade them to your raid right before you go to Viscidus. By shuffling the stacks, you can reset the sack's duration timer. Now that you're past the hard part, it's just a matter of timing your raid's AoE to kill as many globs as possible. To be safe, I recommend having at least 20 engineers with sappers before attempting Viscidus. Simply mark a player you trust and have everyone stack on top of him. Pop your sappers, Holy Nova, Consecration, Blast Wave, Arrow Volley, Hellfire, Easy Dynamite and so on in the right time, and proceed to repeat the fight again. If done correctly, Viscidus will spawn with 30% hit points or less, allowing you to finishing off after the next globes phase. Repeat everything you've done, and when he splits, simply split your raid, pop all your cooldowns, and kill as many globes as possible. Don't forget to remind your melees to equip their real weapons during this globe phase. If Viscidus has less than 10% hit points when he shatters, he'll just die. GNPP will help your healers a lot. And that's pretty much it. Overall, I think AQ40 was a big letdown to many players, including myself. Sure, some fights like Twins, Ouro and Viscidus added new elements to raidings that were mostly overlooked. But even with that, especially with how easy Cthulhu was, I feel like this raid wasn't what it was supposed to be. I guess making all these guides helped me get things into perspective even before the release. I wasn't as disappointed as others were, but still, I feel like some tuning by Blizzard should have been done to really help relieve the epicness of this raid. I hope you enjoyed this video, even with the scuffed editing, and if you did, feel free to press the like button and even subscribe. And if you didn't like the video, then click the dislike button, that's also okay. Regardless though of what you choose, please let me know in the comment section down below what you think about AQ40. Was it everything you were hoping it to be, or was it just a letdown for you as well?